Okay, so this is the final part in this series where we're going to explore that DevOps platform that I shared previously. And in this video, we're going to cover how easy it is for you to generate a new release. So stick around. Now we're at the point where the Amazon AWS infrastructure is set up. We've provisioned Ubuntu. We've created our application, so that's all set up. And the last thing is I want to take a look at our deployment process. So how do you deploy new versions of this application? Now that we're all set up with the scripts, it's really pretty easy. So let's take a look at that next. So before we go in and take a look at the deployment script, I want to take a look at nginx, the conf file for nginx. So before we do that, let's just list out our applications. There's only one app installed right now, so let's go look at the conf file for that app. And the thing I want to point out here is the root. So this is where nginx is going to go and find our code at. So anytime it gets an index file or index.php, it's going to go into this directory. And the magic about this directory is home/demo_1, that's our deployment user. So it's in our deployment users directory. There's a deployments directory inside of that. And then there's this directory that's called current. And the trick is that current, when we go look at it, that's going to be a symlink. So that current symlink can easily be switched between different releases. So after we change that current symlink from release 1 to release 2, our users won't notice any difference. They'll just be on version number 2, and their session will carry on, and everything will just look like, to them, nothing really happened. But behind the scenes, we actually deployed a new release. So zero downtime for our users when this happens. All right, so let's get out of here. And now let's go and see what this user's home directory really looks like. So demo_1. So now I've got a session going as demo_1. And we're going to get into that user's home directory. So if we list the home directory, has a bunch of stuff in here. We already talked about bash aliases earlier. Here's where all the SSH keys for this user are. But here's this deployments directory. That's kind of hard-coded as part of the scripts, and it creates that. So let's go and look and see what's in the deployments directory. And here's that current. It's a symlink. So we talked about earlier. So it's symlink right now to this particular release. So there's a releases directory which has all the releases in it, and this current is pointing to one of those releases. So let's take a look at the releases directory next. Inside the releases directory, there's one other directory, and it just has this timestamp on it. So every time we do a release, there's going to be a new directory added here, and it's going to have the format of a timestamp. So there'll be a 2024 04 14 20 1942, but then there's also going to be a git hash on the end of that thing. There's no git hash on this one because there wasn't a deployment there yet, but we'll start to see git hashes appear after we do another deployment. But let's take a look and see what's in this directory. So inside this release directory, now we see what we normally see for Laravel. So it's the same files that we would normally see. This is where git clone happened. We git cloned the Laravel repo into here. And there are two major things that I want to point out here. First of all, .env is another symlink, and so is storage. That data, .env, and whatever goes in your storage directory, so for example, your logs and everything that's inside there, you want that to persist over releases. You don't want every time there's a new release, all your logs start over. By symlinking in the storage and the .env, now we're able to have those things persist over time. So now let's take a look and see what's in the symlinks directory. So in the symlinks, we can see the .env. This is the master copy of the .env file. We already looked at that once. That actually is the thing that's symlinked in here. So you can see that directory. This master copy is symlinked in to our release. Same thing with our storage. This is symlinked in. So now that we've reviewed kind of the file structure and the directories and what they all mean, let's take a look at what we have to do to make a new deployment. So before we do that, let's look at this this alias file. So you can see there's one alias called deploy, and it's going to run this script for us. So I don't have to remember very much. I just have to type deploy, and I have to run this command. And I'm going to let this run, and we'll see what this does in a little bit. Okay, so this is now completed. If we scroll back to the top here, after deploy, you can see it runs the same code that we already saw once when we created the application. It's running our Laravel builder. It's creating symlinks, composer install. Now the symlinks make more sense, right? Before it does composer install, we want to symlink in the .env file and the storage directory. So anything that happens that needs .env variables, they're in the composer install. So everything's here. Composer install happens. npm install happens. Migrations happen. Again, the migrations wouldn't happen if they didn't have the .env file installed. During migrations, I'm not sure if they're actually writing any logs in our migrations, but if they did, they would have access to the logs because we have the storage directory symlinked in. This deployment, there are new migrations, right? We've already ran the migrations when we did the initial creation of the application, so nothing new created here. And we built our front-end assets. Here's where we're injecting in the app version into the .env file. So our new app version has a date, and then it has a git hash. So now we know what that release is. And then this is the unlinking and linking process. So when we actually activate, we unlink the previous version. So that was what current was set to previously. And then we're linking in the new version. So now we're setting the symlink of current to that one. So if we look at deployments now, you can see current, which is our symlink, has that directory, which is the new release. If we look at what's in releases, you see the old release hanging around, and here's the new release. The new release is exactly the same structure as before. So you can see the same code symlinked in the .env file, symlinked in the storage directory. Very easy to do a deployment. I don't have to do a lot of code. I'm not running a bunch of scripts by hand. Before manually, I ran the git clone, and then I had to manually do composer install and everything. I don't have to do that at all. I can just do deploy, and I'm going to get a third release. So I've run deploy a few more times. So now if we take a look at the releases directory, we can see that our initial release here, which is the one we created when we actually created the application, and I ran deploy 4 additional times. I want to run it one more time, and what's going to happen is we always keep the last 5 deployments. So what we're going to see is this one here that has 20-19-42. That will get deleted. Okay, so that's completed. Now if we look at the releases directory again, you can see that one that I talked about earlier is now gone. But we have the last 5 releases. Because the last 5 releases are around, and because that it's just a symlink that determines which of these releases is being served up, it's pretty easy to roll back to a different release. You can just point the symlink to one of these earlier versions here if you had to. Finally, let's talk about how we can automate some of these deployments on like a push to GitHub or something like that. We can set up Git actions, and I'm not going to do that during this video. I might do a different video on this, but we can have an action where on a certain, when we push code to the master branch, we can kick off a workflow where automatically SSHs in using our deployment user and then runs that deploy script. So it's all pretty easy, self-contained, and that's all super possible using kind of these actions or these workflows for our Git repo. All right, so let's take a quick look at the code for deploying our application new release. So this is the script that gets run as deploy.sh. All right, so one of the assumptions that's made in this script is that you have a session for one of the deployment users and you're running this script under that user. So you can see it's getting the app name from whoami, which is whatever the username is. So it's assuming that the app name is the same as the username. So if you tried to run this under the Ubuntu user, it wouldn't find an app config for that user and it would error out. But if you run it under like demo_1, it'll find the demo_1.sh file that we created earlier and it'll carry on. So here's where we're starting the deployment. The first thing we do is we build up that directory structure start with a date string, and then we're going getting the get hash. So we're at the end, when it's all said and done, we're combining the date string and that remote hash that we have. And the next step is we use git clone here to bring that code into that new release directory. And here's where the Laravel application specific build gets run. So there's these builders, app type, this is set to Laravel. And right now I have Laravel here. And then there's the build. So we're running build. When we look at this build script, this has a lot of the stuff that you're familiar with when you build a Laravel application, like composer install, npm install, PHP artisan migrate, npm run build. The only thing that's different are these symlinks. And we already talked about the symlinks, but this is the bits where you're kind of symlinking in those files or those directories that are going to persist across different releases. So this symlinks script is right here, and we're not going to go through it all in detail, but you can see, looking at .env, here's the SQLite. We're symlinking in public cache if they have it. If there's public data, here's the storage. So all those get symlinked. If you have additional data that's somewhere else that maybe you want it to persist across different deployments, you may have to come in here and tweak this so that you're persisting that data in that symlink cache. So after everything is built, now we're taking that new version, which is just the directory name that we built up here. That's the date string, the remote hash, and we're sticking that into the .env file. So using a sed command, we're just going to replace whatever the current version is with the new version. And then to activate this version, the first thing we do is we kind of unlink the current version. So very briefly, we unlink it, and then right after that, we link in the new version. The time between this unlink and this link is so fast. This is what results in that zero downtime for all of our users. Here's a little bit of code to kind of clean up. I know it says max keeps is 6. It's really kind of 1 minus that, so it only really keeps 5. But this is where you can determine how many of those old releases you're going to keep around. And that's it. That's the complete deployment script. Now that we're at the end of this kind of infrastructure as a code series, there's a couple of small things that I haven't completed yet. So the first thing is the CloudFormation template to actually create the hosted zones for Route 53. So I haven't done that yet. I'm starting to investigate that. So hopefully I'll have some CloudFormation templates for us there. Finally, just as kind of a reminder of what kind of the future roadmap looks like. Right now we're here. We just did DevOps, automation, IAC. Again, I want to do something with the DevOps. So CI/CD, maybe, integrating the GitHub actions and take a look at that so we can kind of automate deployment when we make a change to the GitHub repo. And then after that, I want to start touching base with, how would you scale this application? So right now we got this monolithic application. We can start looking at some of these other options where we may have to scale the database, or what are the options for scaling the cache or the workers or the web. So there's a lot more to come. So stay tuned for all of that information. So if you're interested in that kind of information, hit like and subscribe.